All right, so this is about bonobos. So for a while, we had thought bonobos were just a subspecies of common chimps, calling them pygmy chimps or grass-isle chimps. But in 1933, they were differentiated and became their own species. And I want to mention John Cohen. He is a writer for Science magazine, and he wrote a book called Almost Chimpanzee. Uh, he's also given a lecture that's available on YouTube where he goes over more specifically common chimps. Um, anyway, so this picture here on the left is in regards to their sexual dimorphism, and it's also nice because it compares them to common chimps. So we see here, it might not be a justifiable thing to call bonobos pygmy chimps because they're within 3/10 both sexes, males and females of common chimps and bonobos, of height with each other. The only real difference that's real obvious is the muscle mass on the common chimps compared to the bonobos. Also, another thing is the skulls are going to be bigger on common chimps versus bonobos. I've also got this graph here, the intermembral index, and this is just showing how long the arms are relative to legs on both these species. Um, so this is the geographic distribution, and I've got two graphs. This first graph is just showing all of the chimps, but I'm going to zoom in here, and this is just the bonobo region. Um, and bonobos, they are only found, other than in captivity, they're only found south of the Congo River and north of the Kasai River. Um, but sadly, though, for both species, um, territory is shrinking. Uh, I guess we need the wood more than we need the biodiversity. Um, and for these endangered bonobos, it's estimated that there's only between 30 to 50,000 left. Um, but we do see them in zoos. For instance, the San Diego Zoo has bonobos. And I mentioned John Cohen, the author of the Almost Chimpanzee book earlier. And he mentioned in his lecture on chimpanzees that the San Diego Zoo used to have both common chimps and bonobos. But since we reclassified the species on the bonobos, um, the San Diego Zoo sent the common chimps packing, and they keep the bonobos there and they breed them and everything. Anyway, back to the geography. So it's a rainforest that they live in, and the environments different species live in kind of lead to their diet and dictate their dietary behavior. Um, so here's some photos of them eating, and they live in a rainforest. And bonobos, their primary source of food is fruits, but they'll eat vegetables and sometimes they'll eat bugs. They will also, similarly to chimpanzees, eat monkeys and other small mammals. However, bonobos aren't going to go out of the way and actively hunt them. They'll only eat these mammals if it's super easy for them. They generally have enough food where they can get by on fruits and everything. Um, I also wanted to briefly mention the teeth on them. So they've got the same dental formula as us, two incisors, one canine, two premolars, three molars. And right here, we see this guy on the top right has this large diastema for the lower canine to go into. Um, and then I've got this picture here on the bottom right. That is a bonobo at the San Diego Zoo, uh, like soaked with honey that they are eating. So moving on to locomotion. So similarly to other apes, other than humans, of course, these guys are like knuckle dragging quadrupeds. They do have the ability to move bipedally, which is beneficial for when they're carrying around foods and stuff. This is supposed to be a video on this slide, but I cannot get it to play. But this just shows a bonobo in captivity moving quadrupedally, and they're not like quadrupeds like dogs or horses. It's kind of like a diagonal gait they've got. Um, this video here won't play either, but it is of some bonobos in the wild, and they are walking bipedally, and they're holding food and stuff, just like how people do. Uh, why we have the ability to carry stuff with our hands while we walk. Um, so these guys, this is a photo of one sleeping in the tree. This is something similar to orangutans and common chimps. So they sleep in the trees at night and they build these nests out of leaves. And this picture doesn't show it, but oftentimes they'll try to get the softest, nicest leaves and make a pillow out of it. Um, so I kind of want to get into family and social stuff now. So here's a picture of a baby bonobo on the left, and this is a separate picture of a baby chimp and a baby gorilla. Um, and I know this is about bonobos. I just thought it was a really cute photo to show of these chimp and gorilla who are buddies. Um, and it also shows we can see the physical similarities between these three apes, and even with people, like the way that baby bonobo is sitting, kind of reminds me of how like a people would sit. Anyway, I got another video that won't play, but it's of a mother bonobo and her baby at the Cincinnati Zoo. And an interesting thing about bonobos and chimps, and that's different from humans, is instinctually, and you could see it if the video would play, but for whatever reason, I cannot get it to. Um, but the babies are strong enough where they hold on to mom. Um, for the most part of this video, when mom's walking around with the baby, mom's hands are free and the baby's just holding on. And you couldn't expect a human to get away with doing that with their human baby. Especially this baby in this video is 3 months old, so way too early for a human baby to be able to grasp on like that. Um, so these guys got kind of an interesting social structure compared to gorillas and chimps. You might even say that these pygmy chimps' social structure is uncommon. So bonobo groups are generally like female oriented. Like there may be some adult females and males in charge of the group, but they all answer to the main matriarch for decision making. Uh, and these guys are fairly peaceful, even relative to humans, and especially peaceful compared to gorillas and common chimps. Like I briefly touched on their peacefulness when I went over their diet, and mentioned they only eat monkeys and small mammals when it's opportunistic for them. Um, and although the bonobos have some adult leaders and maybe a matriarch, individuals in the society aren't really ranked. There's no such thing as a egalitarian society, but bonobos seem to be pretty close to that. Also, another thing regarding the peacefulness in the diet, because of the general abundance of food, instead of fighting for food like we might see chimpanzees do, common chimps, bonobos may even offer food to strangers. Um, and their group size kind of varies. It's generally between 25 to 100 people, individuals. And so they'll break into smaller groups of 10 to 15 individuals during the day to forage for food. And these are multi-sex groups, so it'll be males and females. Um, and then they come back at night and cry out to each other that it's bedtime, and then they sleep together in all their nests they make in the trees. So something that may play a role in how peaceful we see them as is that adults kind of retain this pedomorphism, um, like they retain some kind of childlike behaviors. And here on the bottom left, that photo, they may look like they're fighting, but those guys are actually playing. Um, so you might see more aggression in captivity, like there's been reports of bonobos in zoos, um, like the females all befriend each other and they will hoard a certain food, and if a male keeps trying to get it, they might rough him up. Um, and so the captivity may kind of affect their aggression a little bit negatively in that way. but at the rate they're being trafficked and losing territory, captivity might be the only place where they're got any kind of safety. Um, Now, regarding the females beating up the males in captivity for food, generally in the wild, uh, if a male asks for the food, a female group might give him some. So females will befriend each other, and once they're old enough, they'll move to a new group. Um, but males will stay within the group they were born in. Um, and they are like big time mama's boys. So a couple of things that'll happen is if a male is reproducing, his mother may stay around while he's doing that and kind of defend him from other males making advances on the female he's reproducing with. Uh, Another thing is because females befriend each other so much, a mother might befriend all the females, and while she's grooming them, she'll get a good idea on which female is most fertile, and that is the female that she will try to pimp her son out to. And they're not monogamous, so she'll do it with multiple females for her son. But this kind of reminds me of one of the explanations that we've got for menopause in humans. Like a woman lives way past reproduction age in humans. And one of the ideas is that the grandmother hypothesis is even though they're not able to make their own children anymore, they're still around to help with child rearing and care for their children's children. And this is similar to where a mother bonobo is going to make sure her genes get passed on by defending her son while he is mating. Um, so now on to sex. So this is what bonobos have become most well known for. And but I hope some of the stuff I've touched on earlier in the presentation have shown that they're more than just sex maniacs. But the sex does seem to play a role in their peacefulness. So unlike a lot of other species of any mammals, bonobos don't have sex just for reproduction. They'll do it for social bonding, or do it to avoid fighting, or to make up after a fight. And they do it like how people do. They'll kiss each other with their tongues. They'll face each other. Um, and it's not necessarily just penetrative sex. Sometimes they'll just rub their parts together. And it doesn't matter age or gender of the species. Everybody will get it on with anybody. Um, so now on to reproduction. So the bonobo lifespan is about 40 years, and females reach reproductive maturity around 12. Males supposedly become sexually reproductively mature at about 9. Um, and once a bonobo is impregnated, the gestation is about 7.5 months, 8 months. So I've got another video here that won't play, but this is of a pregnant bonobo, and I thought it was a really neat bonobo video because you can see this is a pregnant bonobo here, and you can see her tummy kind of pumping as her fetus inside her moves around. Now I got one more interesting thing about the bonobos. So here's a female bonobo here, and you can see that is her estrus swelling. Um, so generally, a estrus swelling kind of comes up when a species is most fertile, and we see this in other primates, and we see it in chimps. Uh, Supposedly, gorillas have it as well, only it's way more slight. Um, but unlike chimps and other primates, but seem to have it just constantly. Um, and I don't know if this is because they are so sexually active, but generally it would be largest. The estrus swelling would be largest when the individual is most fertile. But the bonobos, it's like always swole. Um, and there's no concrete answer for why they do this. Because humans don't got this. Chimps got it uh, while they are most fertile. And bonobos have it all the time. Uh, anyway, that's it. I hope that was I know that was kind of brief on bonobos, um, but I hope there was enough stuff to kind of point people into directions where further study might be needed. All right, that's it. Thanks.